20 Texas lawmakers, including our next guest, are demanding a lawsuit against President Biden. They say that the administration should be blocking illegal immigrants with coronavirus from entering our country. Here with an update is one of the signers of that letter, Congressman Pat Fallon. Congressman, good to see you.
John, thank you for having me. You're a great American. Glad to be here.
You are too. As I mentioned, you signed this letter calling on Attorney General Ken Paxton in your state of Texas to file a lawsuit against the Biden administration to block immigrants with COVID crossing the border. Crazy idea that you've got there. Where does it stand?
Well, you know, the problem that we have here is when you have a president that sits there and announces to the world that he's going to grant citizenship to millions of people. He's going to make it easier for those folks to get welfare. He's going to freeze deportations. He's going to end a great program that you were working with President Trump on when you were in the administration with the Migrant Protection Protocols, the MPP, which said you will wait in Mexico while we handle your asylum claim, instead of now they're reinstituting catch and release. And now they're shocked that there is a crisis at the border. And let's be really clear, it's the Biden border crisis. That's what we're talking about here.
No, there's no question. And I think one of the things that we've seen is when you have President Biden calling your governor Abbott, a Neanderthal for lifting the restrictions in your state. Yet, President Biden can go ahead and say, all right, illegal immigrants, come into the United States with coronavirus. That messaging does not make sense to me. What do you think?
Well, you know what? I'm a proud deplorable Neanderthal, just so we're clear.
Oh,
number one.
Wow.
But you
okay.
can't. I think I'm going to make some T-shirts up. I'm giving you each one. You can't have one person come from Canada legally into the country because of the coronavirus, because we fear that we're all going to get corona. Okay. But you're going to allow hundreds of thousands. In fact, in February last month, there were over 100,000 people detained crossing the border illegally from Mexico. But we're not testing them for COVID. And then the federal government under Biden says, you know, it's a really good idea. Let's go ahead and disperse them all over the country, untested. And then there's a new strain from Brazil, but apparently they're not following the science. It makes no sense whatsoever. They're just trying to appease their radical progressive leftist base at the expense of the American people.
You know, it's funny. Everything's a super spreader event to the left. Every time, like 8 people on the right gather, and yet you've got all these people gathering down at the border, as you point out. I don't know how the same group of people doesn't look at that and call it a super spreader event, but that's neither here nor there. The Secretary of Homeland Security, as we mentioned earlier in the show, he's down there on the border. I guess the thing that's interesting is I'm one of those people that's very visual, right? Seeing is believing in a lot of cases for me. Do you think that like somehow him seeing this issue and crisis that's on the border will make a difference?
Well, I hope so, because he just testified a couple of days ago to the Homeland Security Committee in the House that the border, you ready for this? The border is secure. If the border is secure, riddle me this. Why in February of 20, we had 36,000 illegal border crossings, but in February 21, it was 100,000, a 273% increase. And unaccompanied minors in February 20, it were 3,070. In February of 21, it was 9,457, a 308% increase. But then magically, the arrests went down. In January of 21, President Trump was the president for most of that month. There were 5,119 arrests. But under President Biden, the following month, even though we just established that border crossings have basically tripled, there were only 1,970 arrests. This is not leadership. This is weakness. This is not putting America first.
Well, I got to tell you, Congressman, your colleagues in the House Democrats, are very busy trying to expand amnesty these days. Yeah. And so Congressman Steve Scalise tweeted out yesterday, House Democrats just blocked an amendment that would prevent illegal immigration gang members from receiving amnesty. They chose the left's insane agenda over the safety of our communities. Disgraceful. Amnesty for gang members. Congressman, your reaction.
This is one of the reasons why in Texas, down in the border regions, Americans of Hispanic descent are trending heavily to the Republican Party. They're sick of one-party rule and this craziness that the left is putting out there. We have to do what's in the best interest of our country. And that is protecting the American citizens, because if you're not safe, then you're not free. And we understand that. That's our greatest calling as elected officials, is to make sure that people are safe. And you ask yourself this question: do you want the federal government to oversee and secure the border, or do you want the Mexican drug cartels to run it? Because right now, the Mexican drug cartels de facto are controlling our southern border.
Don't you think, we've talked about this a ton this week, they keep saying that they don't come, but then they do everything to make it clear that if you do come, you're going to get all of the handouts and a welcome mat for you.
Sean, it's very clear that you can't have both an open border and a welfare state. You just can't. You know, when all those folks were coming over from Europe, you know, in the late 1800s and early 20th century, we weren't a welfare state. When you got here, you were broke and you had to find a job and learn the language and take care of yourself. And the government was not there to help you. It was very, very difficult. That's not the case now. And it's overwhelming. I was in the Texas legislature for 8 years. It is overwhelming our educational system, our medical care. And also, unfortunately, there are bad actors, some criminals committing, because you only need 1%, 2% of the folks coming across that border to be illegal. And who they preying on? They're preying on people of color. They're preying on Hispanics that are crossing as well. And it's not fair, and it's un-American when you have 5 million people in the world trying to get to this country legally, and we're allowing people to cut the line and mass unlawful migration.
Yeah,
it's un-American.
Everything that we're doing sends the wrong signal between the bills that you guys passed yesterday, the Democrats passed, let's just be clear, and all these other signals the administration is putting out. It is very clear that they're saying, don't come, and shaking their heads. Congressman, thank you for giving us a firsthand view of what's going on down there at the border. Have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, y'all. God bless. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You bet. All right. Well, we're more than a year into COVID, right? And still, a lot of Americans aren't clear on things like, as we just showed you with Rand Paul, like when do you have to wear a mask?
Or two masks.
Or two masks, right. Or what happens if you've been vaccinated? What does that mean? Well, we got a doctor coming up. We're going to get the answers to all of those questions and probably a few other things. That's next.